Selamat pagi semuanya. Hari ini kita akan mendengarkan kisah inspiratif dari Jayden, seorang siswa kelas 9 yang baru pindah dari Belanda ke Bangkok dan melanjutkan pendidikannya di sekolah Indonesia. Meskipun menghadapi tantangan besar seperti perbedaan bahasa dan lingkungan baru, Jayden tetap teguh, konsisten, dan tidak mudah menyerah. Mari kita simak cerita dan pengalaman inspiratifnya. Oke, langsung saja kita tanya, bagaimana perasaanmu saat pertama kali pindah dari Belanda ke Bangkok dan masuk sekolah Indonesia? How did you feel when you first moved from the Netherlands to Bangkok and entered an Indonesian school?
When I moved from the Netherlands, from Europe to a whole new continent, I had like a bit of culture shock at first. I was not used to the amount of noise in Thailand, and how people would often greet you when they pass by. But they do that in Europe also, but not as often. And most importantly, I was also not that used to how do I say this, the amount of crowded, the amount of buildings here, which made it very crowded compared to the open fields of Europe. And then when I went to school here, after a few weeks, after I arrived, I experienced even more like culture shock, because people acted like a little more generous than they did in Europe. They were also more like open, and more, they had like a sense of humor that was matching mine slightly, and they are also creative. Yeah.
Thank you. Pertanyaan selanjutnya, apa tantangan terbesar yang kamu hadapi karena perbedaan bahasa? What was the biggest challenge you faced because of the language difference?
Because of the language difference, when I was learning Bahasa Indonesia, actually I learned it years before, but still then it was hard to learn for me, because I had mainly grown up with English and then Dutch. So when I was learning Bahasa Indonesia again, it took me a while to get used to how the language structure, because like instead of saying wait because yeah so you say things differently. So instead of saying you like you ate this, you say no, actually I'm saying it wrong. It's like
Kamu makan ini.
yeah, kamu makan ini, yeah, like that.
Oke.
No.
Oke, terima kasih. Bagaimana caramu tetap percaya diri meskipun belum lancar berbahasa Indonesia? How did you stay confident even though you were not yet fluent in Indonesian?
I remain confident. Actually, I had no like a plan at first. I just kind of like stuck through, and I just assured myself that that everything would go well. So that was actually the only thing that was giving me confidence right now. Just that every day, it's just, I just treat it as normal now. Everything around. Yeah.
Terima kasih. Apa yang membuatmu tetap teguh dan tidak menyerah saat mengalami kesulitan? What kept you strong and prevented you from giving up during difficult times?
What kept me strong was that I would always, because in the past I also had a lot of bad things happen to me, but in the end, at the end of the day, there's also always something good that happens. So when you get something, when something bad happens to you, in return you'll always get something good. That's a guarantee. So when you know that, then it becomes more comforting, because then like when you're struggling with a test, or when you're struggling with with assignments, you can try, and even if you may fail, there will probably always be next time, and also on the next assignment you have better luck then.
Oke. Strategi apa yang kamu gunakan untuk belajar bahasa Indonesia lebih cepat? What strategies did you use to learn Indonesian faster?
To learn Indonesian faster, I started like listening to videos that were in Indonesian. I would also try to look at videos with Indonesian subtitles, so I could try and see what they meant in English. And also because I now have Indonesian like books, like one was a dictionary, and the other ones are daily phrases. I try to speak them with my family, And then if I don't understand a word, I ask them what it means in English first, and then I try to use it in specific context.
Oke. Apakah pernah merasa ingin menyerah? Jika iya, bagaimana kamu mengatasinya? Did you ever feel like giving up? If so, how did you overcome it?
I actually never felt like giving up. It's just that, like, you know, what I said before. Even if you're faced with something difficult, you must never give up, because look, if you cannot run, you have to walk. If you cannot walk, you have to crawl. So just keep moving.
Sangat bagus sekali jawabannya. Terima kasih. Bagaimana dukungan teman dan guru membantumu beradaptasi di sekolah baru? How did support from friends and teachers help you adapt to your new school?
Well, first, my friends, they helped me when I came into this class. They helped me learn Indonesian very fast. They taught me. They translated words. They taught me how to say, like, the colors. They taught me how to say every individual animal, nearly every individual animal, and they wrote it in such a way that I could understand it simply. I did not actually expect me to learn it so fast, because with most other languages, you'd expect it to be difficult, like Mandarin, or I also had the same thought when I first learned Dutch, but it was surprisingly easy after a while. So my friends accelerated my progress with Indonesian drastically, and also my teachers, because they would also tell me what something meant in Indonesian, and like translate it to English, and that also helped me.
Apa perubahan terbesar yang kamu rasakan dalam dirimu sejak pindah ke Bangkok? What is the biggest change you have felt in yourself since moving to Bangkok?
The biggest change I felt in myself is that I had to be more like aware of my surroundings, compared to um, when I could just like be more unfocused in the Netherlands, because of the crowded environment here, you have to watch out for a lot of things. You have to also, and because of the language is much more difficult here, with Thai being hard to learn, you have to especially watch out for what people are saying, because you never know if they could be saying something to you, they could be angry at you, or they could be saying something else entirely, like a friendly greeting. And also because of all the traffic, and with all the people moving around, you have to keep an eye out not to bump into people or wander off into the wrong place, because sometimes this city, especially Bangkok, can be a maze when you're trying to navigate it on the street.
Bagaimana kamu menjaga konsistensi dalam belajar meskipun harus beradaptasi dengan lingkungan baru? How do you maintain consistency in studying while adapting to a new environment?
The consistency is that every day I at least try to learn maybe like 4 to 5 Indonesian words, and then I write them down in a book, and then I practice them with my little brother, who also learns that alongside me, and I speak that with my parents, and then we try to use that in a conversation. And when I want to learn another new thing, they point to like objects, because, like, for example, they're pointing to a bag, they say tas. Actually, tas is the same also in Dutch, so I already knew that. But that's an example. That's so they translate stuff like everyday objects into Indonesian, and then I learn a new thing from that, and then I write that down. All while I'm like, just doing the same thing every day, just walking to the bus station, and then going to school, and going back home. It's actually like just normal to adapt to this, while also maintaining consistency with learning Indonesian.
Oh, okay. Can you give us an example, one sentence in Indonesian that you learned? That you've learned?
Um, uh, Besok saya pergi di mall.
Wih,
Come on.
apa pesanmu untuk siswa lain yang mungkin mengalami kesulitan beradaptasi di tempat baru? What message would you give to other students who are struggling to adapt to a new place?
Um, the message I would give is always remain calm and make sure if you have anxiety, you can always take a deep breath and then analyze what's around you. And when adapting to this new environment, it can be a little bit noisy at first, but eventually you'll learn to like filter out the noise. Because for me, it was also like kind of like a shock when I was confronted with all the noise. Because when you step out of a quiet building, and then suddenly when you're out in the street, you hear like a drill, you hear cars, you hear people talking. It can be a lot of noise compared to places like Bali or Netherlands.
Oke. Dari kisah Jayden, kita belajar bahwa berpindah tempat dan menghadapi perbedaan bukanlah hal yang mudah. Namun, dengan keteguhan, konsistensi, dan semangat untuk belajar, semua tantangan bisa dihadapi. Semoga pengalaman Jayden dapat menginspirasi kita semua untuk tidak mudah menyerah dan tetap percaya diri dalam situasi apapun. Terima kasih, Jayden, atas cerita dan motivasi yang telah kamu bagikan.
Okay.
Sampai jumpa di lain waktu.